Well, hey, we are Barry and Darlene Nicholson. This is, what's the name of this channel?
Okay, so after we left the Bryce Canyon area, our next stop was going to be Moab. However, Moab was too hot when we were there. So we just changed our plans and we went on to Zion because that was, we were supposed to hit 3 of the big 5 and we just decided we did not want to boondock in the heat. So we went on to Zion.
Well, that brings up a good point about boondocking is that we were able to adjust because we've definitely had to kind of get used to this weather thing. We've had to make a few changes over the last month or so just based on finding out that it's going to be hotter than we planned, so we had to adjust accordingly. And the good thing is if you don't need our reservations at an RV park, you're not losing a deposit or something like that. If you made a reservation, nobody's expecting you. There's just a patch of dirt over there as opposed to a patch of dirt over here.
Yeah, so yeah, and being flexible with boondocking it's kind of nice that you can make those decisions, certain times during busy seasons in the national park areas, the campgrounds can get full, but we found that we didn't have a problem just getting a night or two in between these stays at the different national parks boondocking. So we just found a park and went for it. So Zion, we did our boondocking in an area called Sheep's Bridge Road. This is another one that I did like lots of Google Earth looking at. I get really anxious in the mountains. So when we have to drive through the mountains, camp in the mountains, I am probably doing way too much due diligence, but the more I know, the less I freak out. So this is one that I really took a lot of time. And I read tons and tons of reviews on the Dirt, Campendium, RV Life app, and I felt pretty good about it. So the road is not hard to find. It's right off, I believe it's State Highway 9. If that's not right, I'll put it on the screen.
Yeah, I mean it's right on the way to Zion. So
yeah. It's Sheep's Bridge Road is on Google. You can look it up there. It's actually, you go behind a little residential community and it turns to gravel pretty quick. Again, not bad. It's flat. So with the RV, it wasn't that big a deal. Now, as you go up and you can tell you're entering the BLM land, it's getting a little more like a canyon, kind of like, the road was, what did they call that? Washboard? It was, it was rough.
Yeah. I mean, because you couldn't figure out, it's like, do I go slow or fast on this stuff? Because either way, you feel like the RV is going to fall apart. I mean, it's just, the whole thing's vibrating, the truck's vibrating. It's just not a lot of fun.
Yeah, so we just took it slow. And we saw a lot. Okay, there's this whole story on this boondocking spot. So we saw a lot of different spots. Barry did take the bike off. We pulled over, took the bike off, and he went and rode around. And for our size rig, there just weren't a lot of options. That looked like a lot of them were taken. We weren't comfortable driving it down the side roads, and so we did find an area, and it had a fire pit. It was what we thought was obviously a spot that was really awesome, and you can see by the pictures that it was very awesome. So we were really pleased with it. We did have to pull out to it and then back up out of it. There wasn't any turning around or anything like that, but it was fine. But the funny part of that story is, I mean, we had that pinch me, like the first couple of days we were like, oh my God, can you believe this spot? It was just so unbelievable. Well, it was too good to be true because it wasn't public land, it was private land.
Yeah, we basically had a guy come up and he was very nice.
Very nice.
Very polite. And he said, hey guys, just heads up, you're on private land right now. And we obviously had no idea. There were no signs posted. And that's what he said. He's like, look, my brother and I are here posting signs. You know, I know that, and it's right next to the BLM land. It looks exactly the same as the BLM. So we
wouldn't know. We wouldn't have known it wasn't BLM.
Yeah, and he understood. He's just like, basically, he said, you don't need to move. Enjoy your time here. Please clean up your mess when you leave, all that kind of stuff. And then later on, apparently, this is family owned, so his cousin came a few days later and basically said the same thing. He didn't know that his cousin had already stopped by.
Yeah, because in the between time, the first guy put no trespassing signs right behind where we were, and there was another RV just down the way, and they did the same thing. And but they told us, go ahead and stay, don't worry about it, because apparently people were taking his signs down.
Yeah.
And this is why we're going to lose the BLM land if people don't go by the rules. So there were obviously signs around that said you couldn't camp there, but he said people keep taking the signs down. So when it comes to Sheep's Bridge Road, the way you know supposedly that it's a spot is there is a kind of like a tall marker, and it has a number on it. However, a lot of those markers are being taken down. So it's really hard to know what is and isn't a spot. So I would say if you do that road, just pull over, go look for those little markers. We did see some. We had to drive our bikes quite a ways down the side roads to see them. Yeah. But there were some on the main road, just not that many. But it is a beautiful, beautiful area. It really is. And we enjoyed our stay there. We felt very fortunate. This nice man let us stay there and didn't make us move. So, and we got some amazing views for that whole time. And I tell you what, when that sky lights up at that sunset and the hills get red, it is just stunning. So this area in itself around Zion, the actual road is in Virgin, I think, Utah, but it's not very far from Zion at all.
Yeah, and another thing too that I realized is I was riding my bike around a lot. In fact, if you're into mountain biking, or if you have an e-bike where you can kind of do that style of riding, there is an awesome mountain biking trail that's just right there down the road. So I did a lot of that while we were there. But another thing, I kind of explored a bit, and I realized that there was BLM land all over the place. That there were other roads, other main roads that would come in, and I saw a lot of campers out there. So if we would have found ourselves in a position where we needed to move, we would have been able to find another spot around there somewhere, because there's just a lot of BLM land around there.
Yeah. Zion is on a lot of people's bucket list, and it was definitely on ours. It's funny. People ask me, because we did Bryce and then we did Zion, and I like each one differently for different reasons. But Zion is definitely more crowded. It's kind of like a natural Disneyland or something like that, because you have to take the shuttles. So we were able to go in and park at the Welcome Center in Zion, just past the gates, both times. And I think the only reason we got in is not the busiest time of year, but we went late for our first hike, which was Angel's Landing, and we went super early for our hike for the Narrows. And I think that's the way to go. During the day, you're going to have to take a shuttle from town to come into the park. You cannot drive to the different trailheads within Zion. You have to take a shuttle. But the cool thing is they run the shuttles constantly. Yeah. So you can get a shuttle very, very quickly when you need it. We didn't have any problem. I think the shuttles run from like 6 a.m. Till 7 p.m. I think, something like that. So you should be able to get on and off pretty quickly. It's not that bad. So the first hike we did was Angel's Landing. It's the one that everyone talks about. Mm-hmm. You do have to get a permit, and depending on the time of year and all that, if you're going in peak season, you better have gotten that permit way in advance. We got the day before request permit, and we got it no problem. So, and that's because I think of when we were going, as it wasn't super crowded. But the funny thing is there was no one there checking it.
Yeah, exactly. So, but you don't want to take that risk. You don't want to go all the way there and have somebody turn you away because you don't have a permit.
I think we headed over there around 3. And then we left. The sun was definitely going down. It was getting a little bit dark.
Yeah, and the thing about Angel's Landing that was my first time to Zion is that it's paved all the way up, and probably for good reason, because it's super steep.
At times, really, really steep. You would definitely slip if it was not paved.
But I thought, I'm just used to going on hiking trails and it's rocks or dirt or whatever. And so this is actually paved all the way up to the top. But like I said, it's very steep. So if you're not fit enough to go on super steep hikes, I would definitely not do Angel's Landing.
I think we did it in 2 hours. And we did not do the last part where it has the chains. I tried. I'll be honest with you. I was even telling myself I wasn't going to do it before I got there. But when I got there, I thought, well, it didn't seem too bad. So I did the first set of chains, and then when I had to drop the chains and go to I couldn't walk to the next part. It was too. Yeah.
It's definitely something that if you're afraid of heights, if you find yourself like your mind takes you like, oh my God, I'm just one step away from death or whatever, that is not something that you want to do. For me, it doesn't personally scare me, but I also didn't. It was an awkward situation because I didn't want to like leave her behind or something and go off, and then she'd be worrying about me. So it just wasn't worth it.
Yeah, and we had, if we couldn't do it in a certain amount of time, we were going to risk not making the last shuttle. And so that's kind of where we're like, okay, we'll just won't do it. And it was fine. I mean, I felt like a little like, oh, I wish I would have done it, but I just couldn't. It's just not my thing. I don't have a fear of heights. I just have a fear of falling. So there's that. But I think a lot of people could do the majority of that hike, but there were some back and forth as you're getting toward the top, you're just like, oh my God, is there more? Kind of thing. And we're pretty fit, and I was admiring some of the people on that trail who did not look very fit that did it. So if you have the will, I think you could pull it off. But the views were really gorgeous most of the way there, so I think it's worth it. A lot of people thought it was a little bit hypey, but I think if you do it in the right time, it's definitely worth it.
So the Narrows, you've probably heard about the Narrows. If you spent any time on YouTube, you probably watched some videos about the Narrows. What it is, it's basically they're slot canyons, right? Mm-hmm. Which is a word that I have to tell you that I did not know what that meant a year ago. So it's basically these very narrow canyons where you have a river that's going in between them. And so basically the only way to do this hike is literally to walk through the river. Now the river, probably most of the points of the hike might be a foot.
Yeah, it was not deep. High, except for there was one spot kind of at the beginning where we were at maybe chest level. And that was, we held our bag over our head just to make sure it didn't get wet, but that was probably the deepest it was. And then there's one other spot that we went through that was waist deep, but we chose to go through it because here's the key: rent the bibs, rent the shoes, get the walking stick. We almost didn't do it, and because we have poles, and he has regular fishing waders, and we were like, do we really need to? But I had read over and over, and it was chilly. When we started out, we had sock hats on, we had thermals on underneath our bibs. It was not warm. So those bibs, you didn't feel it. You felt it cool. You felt the water pressure, but you didn't get cold in any way. So we went to Zion Guru in town and rented them, and 100% that is the way to go.
Yeah, I was amazed. I'd never really worn a quality pair of waders or hiking shoes like that are meant to go be submerged in water, and I was just shocked. We were not wet at all. It would have been really uncomfortable if we been. But the other thing too is those boots are really high quality, you're going to be walking on rocks the entire time.
Yeah.
So it's basically, because all that river is just a bunch of rocks with water running over the top of it.
And some are big rocks, some are little rocks, and your feet are kind of twisting. And these hiking shoes, these water shoes, are really thick and hardy. So you just don't feel as wobbly. Like we watched other people that were wearing water sandals, that were wearing regular tennis shoes, and they were on the struggle bus, let me tell you. I mean,
Yeah.
I think a lot of them didn't make it very far. A lot of people, just so you know, there's like a paved walk to the water, and that's really pretty. If you don't want to get in the water, just do that walk, go down, take some pictures at the water, and then call it a day. But a lot of people walked in the water just a little ways, but as soon as they got to that deep part, they're just contemplating whether or not they want to go further. And a lot of people asked us on our way back if it was worth it, and we definitely thought it was worth it. So
yeah, but the water's cold, and it's always gonna be cold. It's thawed
mountain water,
thawed snow. So if you're gonna do it right. I would say go ahead and get the equipment. You remember how much we paid for it?
I want to say it was 75 each
per person.
Yeah, it
so
depends what you get. You can get like different levels. You could just get the shoes and the hiking stick. You could get the bibs and the shoes, or you can, I think they had another like top piece that you could get if it's really cold. You might want to get that too. And also the thing to remember, the whole Narrows hike, I think, is like 7 hours or something like that.
Yeah.
We did not do that. So we went really early. We were on the first of the shuttles, because we needed to get back to our dog before it got hot, because we were boondocking. We knew the RV was going to get too hot. So we were on the very first one. When we got there at, I don't know, it was around 6:37.
Yeah.
We got in the main.
And the parking lot was almost full.
Almost full. So
at 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah. So they're gonna, I think as soon as you can go in and get a parking spot if that's a big deal to you. But we got in a little bit of a line right when we got there for the shuttle. I think we maybe waited 10 minutes maybe to get on the shuttle to go to our stop. We hiked from about, I think we got to the water around 8ish or something like that, and then we were done hiking by 11, and then by the time we caught the shuttle and got back to the visitor center, it was probably around noon. When we got back at noon, I could not believe the line to get on the shuttles. So if you wait to the afternoon, you're probably adding hours to your ability to get on a shuttle and get to the spot. So go early or go late, because that is, to me, the only way to go. Otherwise, you're just waiting in lines the whole time.
Okay, so when we were staying in the Zion area, we were there for what, a good 10 days?
Yeah.
So, we didn't spend all of our time at Zion. We actually only went to Zion twice. So, I always like to, because I love to go fishing, and I'm always looking for spots. And so I found out about this area called the Kolob Reservoir. And there was a turnoff that was just right there close to where we were boondocking. And so, what I've discovered later is that Kolob is an entire other section of Zion National Park, but it's probably just not as well known. And so when I went up to go to this reservoir, I kept driving and driving up the mountain, and I couldn't believe the views. The views were absolutely stunning. Well, I didn't realize I was still in a national park. And so I think this Kolob drive, even if just driving up to the lake, I mean, there are so many places where you can pull off. Well, put it this way. I went up there, went fishing, and then I came back and I told her, I said, you won't believe this drive that we took. In fact, I want to take us and just go back. And that's exactly what we did.
So we picked one of the afternoons that was quite warm. It was unusually warm when we were there. Again, we're boondocking. You just want to get out of the RV in the late afternoon because it just gets too warm. So we needed to take the dog. And so this was a great time for us to just jump in the truck, take the dog with us. And he wasn't kidding. The views on the drive are amazing. And another thing is we're driving higher and higher and higher. The leaves started to change, and you can start to feel like, oh, it's fall. And and when we got to the reservoir, the leaves all around the water were it was like all yellow and orange, and it was a nice area. They do have some sort of camping up there, I think, but definitely small rigs.
Yeah, it's pretty rugged. In fact, as we were starting to take the truck, just kind of drive around, and at one point a guy kind of stopped us and said, "You probably don't want to take that big truck down that road." And just trust me on this. He's like, "Okay,
turn around."
Yeah, exactly.
But we stopped. We let Hugo play. It was just a really lovely area, and just like I said, the different views along the road. The road is actually Colab Terrace Road. It's right off that State Road 9 that as you're on your way to Zion, and you can look it up. It's super easy to find, and again, just take your time and make that drive, and it is really, really nice.
Yeah, and one thing that we did notice when we were up there was a lot of little day camping spots, and I think a lot of the locals knew about it, because I could tell that a lot of the families, it was a Sunday afternoon, and they would just come and they would park and they'd either fish or they'd
have a picnic.
Just have a picnic, and there were just nice little areas where you could pull your truck off, and it's definitely a place where I really would like to go back. And just, I thought, man, if there's just a place where you could just come and chill and enjoy a beautiful area, that'd be a nice place to do it.
That's a place to do it for sure. And it's a nice break from all the Zion stuff, and just to do something different and to kind of get away from the busy park.
This wraps up our time in the Zion National Park area. We're so sad to leave this stunning boondocking spot, but after 12 days with no hookups, it's time to move on. We'll hit a campground for a couple of days to clean and do laundry, and then we're off to Lake Mead and Hoover Dam. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We could really use your support, and we have so much to share with you in the coming weeks. From Lake Mead to camping in downtown Las Vegas, boondocking in Joshua Tree, and so much more. We'll see you soon.